Las Vegas, July 18th, 2002, 3:41 a.m. The neon heartbeat of Sin City pulsed with its usual relentless rhythm as the Golden Oasis Casino entered the quietest hour of its 24-hour cycle. Inside the opulent gaming hall, the last desperate gamblers clung to slot machines and blackjack tables, chasing fortunes that seemed perpetually just one more bet away. Security cameras captured what would later become the most analyzed 47 minutes of surveillance footage in Las Vegas criminal history. Five hooded figures moved through a service corridor beneath the casino floor, like ghosts navigating a familiar maze, their movements coordinated with military precision despite their youth. Their leader, Daniel Vega, just 22 years old and drowning in student debt, raised his hand in a silent signal that would trigger the most audacious casino heist in Nevada history. Within minutes, security alarms would be disabled, guards would be distracted by carefully orchestrated chaos, and the Golden Oasis Casino's supposedly impenetrable vault would be breached by tools built in a college engineering lab. They weren't career criminals or professional thieves, explains criminologist Dr. Sarah Martinez, who studied the case extensively. They were broke college kids who had spent 6 months planning the most sophisticated casino heist Vegas had ever seen, and they pulled it off with the kind of precision that would have impressed the FBI. Inside the vault, stacks of bundled cash represented $42 million, the largest single jackpot accumulation ever stored at the Golden Oasis. Money destined for high roller payouts and international wire transfers that would never reach their intended destinations. The Golden Oasis heist changed everything we thought we knew about casino security, reflects former FBI Special Agent Michael Chen, who led the investigation. These weren't seasoned criminals with decades of experience. They were engineering and business students who had applied their academic skills to the problem of robbing a casino, and they had solved it brilliantly. By 4:17 a.m., Daniel Vega and his crew had vanished into the Nevada desert, carrying $42 million in cash, leaving behind a mystery that would consume federal investigators for years and forever change how Las Vegas casinos thought about the threats posed by the invisible army of young workers who kept their operations running. Vegas casinos were designed to defeat professional gambling cheats, organized crime families, and sophisticated con artists, observes casino security consultant Dr. Patricia Rodriguez. But nobody had considered that the real threat might come from broke college students with nothing to lose and everything to prove. The mastermind behind this unprecedented theft was Daniel Alejandro Vega, a 22-year-old mechanical engineering student at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, whose family's financial collapse had driven him to see America's gambling capital through the desperate eyes of someone who understood that sometimes the house doesn't always win. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to smash that like button if you're already hooked. Drop a comment below, letting me know what city or country you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories reach around the world. And hit that subscribe button with notifications on so you never miss when we drop the next unbelievable true crime case. Seriously, this story gets even crazier. So let's jump right in. Daniel Alejandro Vega was born into the American middle class on March 15, 1980, in Henderson, Nevada, just outside Las Vegas. His father, Roberto Vega, owned a small construction company that had prospered during the 1990s casino boom, building the infrastructure that supported Sin City's endless expansion into the Mojave Desert. Daniel grew up watching Las Vegas transform from a desert gambling town into a global entertainment empire, explains family friend Maria Santos. His childhood was comfortable, but he also understood that everything in Vegas was built on the principle that the house always wins, until his family discovered that sometimes even the house can lose everything. The Vega family's financial collapse began in 1999, when Roberto's construction company was destroyed by a series of bad investments and a lawsuit from a casino development project that went catastrophically wrong. Within 18 months, the family had lost their home, their savings, and their faith in the American dream that had brought Roberto from Mexico 30 years earlier. Daniel watched his father go from successful businessman to broken man in less than 2 years, recalls family counselor Dr. Jennifer Liu, who worked with the Vega family during their crisis. The psychological impact of seeing everything your family built disappear because of circumstances beyond your control creates a particular kind of desperation that can drive good people to consider desperate solutions. By 2001, Daniel was working multiple part-time jobs to pay for his mechanical engineering studies at UNLV, while his family struggled with bankruptcy proceedings and the social stigma of financial failure in a city built on the promise of easy money. Daniel was brilliant, hardworking, and completely broke, recalls his academic advisor, Dr. Robert Park. He was the kind of student who could solve complex engineering problems while working 20 hours a week in minimum wage jobs just to afford textbooks. The contrast between his intellectual capabilities and his economic circumstances was striking. It was during this period of maximum financial stress that Daniel took a part-time custodial job with a cleaning service that maintained several downtown Las Vegas casinos, including the Golden Oasis. The work paid $8.50 per hour and required him to work overnight shifts that conflicted with his class schedule. But Daniel needed every dollar he could earn. Daniel's custodial work was supposed to be temporary, just enough income to keep him in school until graduation, explains former supervisor Carlos Martinez. But he was incredibly observant, and he began noticing things about casino operations that most people never see. Daniel's engineering training had taught him to analyze systems, identify inefficiencies, and solve complex problems through methodical observation and creative thinking. As he mopped floors and emptied trash cans throughout the Golden Oasis, he began applying these same analytical skills to understanding how the casino's security, cash handling, and operational procedures actually function. Daniel saw the Golden Oasis the way an engineer sees any complex system, observes Dr. Martinez. He didn't just see a casino. He saw a machine with inputs, outputs, vulnerabilities, and opportunities for optimization. The problem was that Daniel's optimization strategy involved taking their money. The specific observations that would eventually inspire Daniel's criminal plan emerged from his access to areas of the casino that customers and most employees never saw. Service corridors, mechanical rooms, and the loading docks where armored cars delivered and collected the cash that kept the gambling empire functioning. Daniel's custodial access gave him a behind-the-scenes education in casino vulnerabilities that no security consultant could have provided, admits former Golden Oasis security director, Dr. Angela Torres. He understood our procedures, our staffing patterns, and our blind spots better than people who had worked in casino security for decades. More importantly, Daniel began to understand that the Golden Oasis, like most Las Vegas casinos, was designed to handle known threats, professional cheats, organized crime, sophisticated con artists, but had vulnerabilities that could be exploited by people who didn't fit the traditional criminal profile. Daniel realized that casino security was psychological as much as technical, explains Dr. Rodriguez. The systems were designed to detect people who looked and acted like criminals. But broke college students working legitimate jobs? They were virtually invisible to security apparatus designed to watch for different kinds of threats. As Daniel's financial situation worsened and his academic performance suffered from the stress of working multiple jobs, he began to see the millions of dollars flowing through the Golden Oasis, not as other people's money, but as a solution to problems that conventional employment would never solve. By winter 2001, Daniel Vega had identified what he believed were exploitable vulnerabilities in the Golden Oasis Casino's security systems, but he also understood that executing a successful heist would require skills and resources that no single person could provide. The solution was as unconventional as the crime itself. Recruit a team from his fellow UNLV students who were facing their own financial crises. Daniel's approach to team building was like assembling a project group for an advanced engineering class, explains criminal behavior specialist Dr. Michael Rodriguez. He identified specific skill sets needed for the heist, then recruited people who possessed those skills and had motivations that aligned with his criminal objectives. The first recruit was Maya Torres, a 21-year-old finance major whose academic excellence masked a desperate financial situation. Maya's single mother worked 2 jobs to support 3 children, and Maya was facing the prospect of dropping out of college due to unpaid tuition bills that exceeded her family's entire annual income. Maya was probably the smartest person in her finance program, recalls Professor Dr. Patricia Chen. She understood complex financial systems, market operations, and money laundering techniques better than most professionals. The irony is that she was using her education to analyze criminal opportunities rather than legitimate career prospects. Maya's role in Daniel's plan was to study the Golden Oasis's cash flow patterns, understand when maximum amounts of money would be stored in the vault, and develop laundering strategies that could convert stolen cash into clean assets. Her academic research into casino financial operations became criminal intelligence gathering. Maya approached the heist planning like a graduate thesis project, explains Dr. Rodriguez. She created detailed financial models showing optimal timing for the theft, projected the casino's cash reserves during different periods, and designed money laundering strategies that leveraged offshore banking systems she had studied in her international finance courses. The second recruit was Chris Yoon, a 20-year-old computer science major whose programming skills had made him a valuable but underpaid freelance web developer. Chris was supporting his immigrant parents while completing his degree, working 16-hour days between classes and coding projects that barely covered his family's basic expenses. Chris was a brilliant programmer who was being exploited by clients who knew he was desperate for work, explains computer science professor Dr. Jennifer Liu. He was creating sophisticated software solutions for companies that paid him a fraction of what his work was worth. His financial desperation made him receptive to Daniel's criminal proposition. Chris's responsibilities included hacking into the Golden Oasis's employee database to clone security badges, mapping the casino's digital surveillance systems, and developing techniques for disabling or manipulating security cameras during the heist. His academic coursework in network security became training for criminal cyber operations. Chris treated the casino's computer systems like any other programming challenge, observes cybersecurity expert Dr. Robert Kim. He studied their network architecture, identified vulnerabilities, and developed exploits that could give the team access to restricted systems. The difference was that this wasn't a class assignment. It was preparation for grand larceny. The third team member was Eric Salazar, a 22-year-old mechanical engineering major whose family's immigration from Mexico had been motivated by dreams of prosperity that seemed impossible to achieve through legitimate employment. Eric was working in auto repair shops for minimum wage while completing an engineering degree that he couldn't afford to finish without taking on crushing student loan debt. Eric had the practical mechanical skills that Daniel's plan required, explains engineering professor Dr. Sarah Martinez. He could design and build custom tools, understand architectural systems, and solve the physical challenges involved in breaching a casino vault. His poverty had made him resourceful in ways that wealthy students never needed to be. Eric's assignment was creating the specialized tools needed to breach the Golden Oasis vault quietly and efficiently. Using his engineering knowledge and access to the UNLV mechanical workshop, Eric began designing hydraulic systems, lock-picking devices, and other equipment that would make the impossible heist possible. Eric's engineering approach to vault breaking was sophisticated enough to impress professional burglars, admits former FBI technical analyst Dr. Angela Park. He understood metallurgy, hydraulics, and structural engineering well enough to design tools that could defeat security measures that had cost the casino millions of dollars to install. The final recruit was Josh Miller, a 21-year-old former high school football star whose athletic scholarship had been revoked due to a knee injury that ended his sports career. Josh was facing the prospect of leaving UNLV due to unpaid tuition while working security jobs that reminded him daily of everything he had lost. Josh was the team's psychological warfare specialist, explains Dr. Rodriguez. His role was creating distractions, managing human elements of the heist, and providing physical capabilities that the other team members lacked. His experience in competitive athletics had taught him to perform under pressure. Josh's responsibilities included studying casino security personnel, learning their routines and vulnerabilities, and developing distraction techniques that would draw attention away from the team's activities during the heist. His natural charisma and understanding of crowd psychology made him perfect for manipulating casino staff and customers. Josh could start a fight, calm a situation, or create chaos depending on what the plan required, explains behavioral analyst Dr. Patricia Torres. He understood how to manipulate group dynamics in ways that would benefit the heist while appearing completely natural to observers. By spring 2002, Daniel had assembled a team that combined engineering expertise, financial knowledge, computer skills, and psychological manipulation capabilities. More importantly, he had recruited people whose desperation matched his own and whose academic training had prepared them to solve the complex problems that successful casino robbery required. Daniel's team was more qualified to rob a casino than most professional criminal organizations, reflects Agent Chen. They had university-level expertise in every skill set the heist required, and they were motivated by the kind of desperation that makes people willing to risk everything for a chance at financial freedom. Spring 2002 marked the beginning of the most intensive criminal education program in Las Vegas history, as Daniel Vega and his team transformed from broke college students into a sophisticated heist crew through months of meticulous planning, reconnaissance, and rehearsal. Daniel approached the heist planning like a military operation combined with an advanced engineering project, explains criminal psychology expert Dr. Michael Rodriguez. The team met regularly, assigned specific research responsibilities, and treated their criminal enterprise with the same systematic methodology they applied to their academic studies. Maya Torres began conducting financial intelligence gathering that would have impressed professional casino consultants. She spent weeks observing cash delivery schedules, analyzing the casino's operational patterns, and developing models that predicted when the Golden Oasis vault would contain maximum amounts of money. Maya's financial analysis was incredibly sophisticated, admits former casino security consultant Dr. Patricia Chen. She understood seasonal gambling patterns, high roller event scheduling, and cash flow management better than most casino executives. Her research identified July as the optimal month for the heist because summer tourism created maximum cash accumulation. Maya's investigations revealed that the Golden Oasis typically maintained between $15–25 million in vault storage, but during peak summer periods, special events could drive cash reserves above $40 million. Her analysis identified July 18th as the date when a convergence of factors would create the largest possible target. Maya had essentially created a business plan for robbing a casino, observes Dr. Chen. She had identified market conditions, optimal timing, risk factors, and profit projections with the same analytical rigor that legitimate businesses use for strategic planning. Simultaneously, Chris Yoon was conducting cyber reconnaissance that penetrated the Golden Oasis's digital security systems with remarkable sophistication. Using techniques he had learned in computer science courses, Chris mapped the casino's network architecture and identified vulnerabilities that could be exploited during the heist. Chris's hacking was more advanced than most corporate espionage operations, explains cybersecurity expert Dr. Jennifer Liu. He gained access to employee databases, security camera systems, and operational schedules through a combination of social engineering and technical exploitation that demonstrated graduate-level computer security knowledge. Chris's most significant breakthrough was developing a technique for cloning employee security badges using equipment he had built from electronic components purchased legally through online retailers. The cloned badges would provide the team with legitimate access to restricted areas without triggering security alerts. Chris had essentially created a master key to the casino's most secure areas, admits former FBI cybercrimes investigator Dr. Robert Park. His cloned badges were sophisticated enough to fool biometric readers and electronic security systems that had cost the casino millions of dollars to install. While Maya and Chris gathered intelligence, Eric Salazar was solving the physical challenges of breaching a vault that had been designed to resist professional safecrackers and explosives experts. Using the UNLV engineering workshop after hours, Eric designed and built custom tools that could defeat the Golden Oasis's security measures quietly and efficiently. Eric's engineering solutions were elegant and innovative, explains mechanical engineering professor Dr. Sarah Martinez. He designed hydraulic systems that could generate enormous force without creating noise, developed lock manipulation devices that left no evidence of tampering, and created entry tools that could breach security barriers in minutes rather than hours. Eric's masterpiece was a portable hydraulic jack system that could generate enough force to overcome the Golden Oasis Vault's secondary locking mechanisms without triggering vibration sensors or audio monitoring systems. The device was small enough to transport easily, but powerful enough to defeat security measures that had been designed to resist sledgehammers and explosives. Eric had essentially built a custom vault-breaking system using engineering principles and readily available materials, observes Dr. Martinez. His tools were more sophisticated than equipment used by professional burglars because Eric understood the underlying physics and metallurgy better than most criminals ever would. Josh Miller's preparation focused on the human elements of the heist, understanding security personnel, developing distraction techniques, and learning to manipulate crowd psychology in ways that would benefit the team's criminal objectives. Josh spent months studying casino security procedures and personnel management, explains behavioral specialist Dr. Angela Torres. He learned guard rotation schedules, identified individual security officers' personalities and weaknesses, and developed techniques for creating distractions that would appear natural while serving the heist's strategic objectives. Josh's research revealed that Golden Oasis security guards were most vulnerable to distraction during the overnight hours, when fatigue and routine made them less attentive to unusual activities. He developed scenarios for creating chaos that would draw security attention away from areas where the team needed to operate unobserved. Josh's distraction strategies were psychologically sophisticated, observes Dr. Torres. He understood how to create situations that would overwhelm security personnel's attention capacity while appearing to be random incidents rather than coordinated diversions. The team's preparation culminated in elaborate rehearsals conducted at an abandoned warehouse facility outside Las Vegas, where they practiced every element of the heist until their coordination approached military precision. Daniel's team rehearsed their heist like a theater production, explains Dr. Rodriguez. They timed every movement, practiced equipment deployment, and simulated emergency scenarios until they could execute the entire operation in complete darkness if necessary. By July 2002, Daniel Vega and his crew had transformed themselves from desperate college students into the most sophisticated casino heist team Las Vegas had ever seen. Their combination of academic expertise, desperate motivation, and months of preparation had created what federal investigators would later describe as the perfect criminal organization. Daniel's team succeeded because they approached casino robbery like an advanced university research project, reflects Agent Chen. They had applied academic-level analysis to criminal planning in ways that professional thieves never would have considered. The result was a heist that was more sophisticated than anything law enforcement had encountered before. July 18, 2002 began like any other summer evening in Las Vegas, with temperatures still above 100 degrees as the sun set over the Nevada desert and the city's neon ecosystem began its nightly transformation into the world's most concentrated display of artificial excitement. July 18th was perfect for Daniel's purposes, explains casino operations expert Dr. Patricia Rodriguez. Peak summer tourism, maximum cash flow, and security personnel stretched thin by the demands of managing unprecedented crowds. The Golden Oasis was operating at capacity with guests who were spending money at rates that required constant cash replenishment. Daniel Vega and his team had spent weeks finalizing their preparations for this specific night. Maya's financial analysis had confirmed that the casino's vault would contain approximately $42 million, the largest single accumulation in Golden Oasis history. Chris's cyber reconnaissance had verified that security systems would be operating on routine schedules. Eric's engineering preparations were complete. Josh's distraction strategies were rehearsed to perfection. Everything had to go exactly according to plan, explains criminal behavior specialist Dr. Michael Rodriguez. The team had no backup options, no contingency resources, and no experience with actual criminal operations. Their success depended entirely on the quality of their preparation and their ability to execute under extreme pressure. The heist began at 3:10 a.m., with Josh Miller entering the Golden Oasis main gaming floor dressed as a slightly intoxicated tourist. His role was creating a distraction significant enough to draw security attention away from other areas of the casino while appearing natural enough to avoid triggering heightened alert procedures. Josh's performance was Academy Award caliber, observes behavioral analyst Dr. Angela Torres. He created exactly the right amount of chaos, enough to occupy security personnel, but not enough to trigger lockdown procedures that would have compromised the team's access to restricted areas. Josh's distraction involved starting a staged altercation at a roulette table that escalated into a minor brawl involving several other customers. The incident required multiple security guards to resolve and created enough confusion to mask the sound of the team's entry into the casino service areas. Josh understood crowd psychology well enough to manipulate other customers into participating in his distraction without realizing they were being used, explains Dr. Torres. The fight appeared spontaneous, but Josh had engineered every element to serve the heist's strategic objectives. At 3:15 a.m., while security personnel focused on managing the disturbance Josh had created, Daniel, Maya, Eric, and Chris entered the Golden Oasis through a service entrance using custodial uniforms and Chris's clone security badges. The team's entry was invisible because they looked exactly like legitimate casino employees, admits former Golden Oasis security director, Dr. Jennifer Liu. They had proper uniforms, valid access cards, and professional demeanor that made their presence in restricted areas appear completely authorized. The team moved through service corridors with the confidence of people who belonged there, carrying equipment that appeared to be routine maintenance supplies, but actually contained Eric's custom vault-breaking tools. Daniel's team navigation was perfect because Chris had mapped the casino's layout through months of digital reconnaissance, explains former FBI technical analyst Dr. Robert Park. They knew exactly where security cameras were positioned, which corridors provided optimal concealment, and how to reach the vault area without triggering any electronic monitoring systems. At 3:23 a.m., Chris deployed his most sophisticated hack, replacing live security camera feeds with pre-recorded footage that showed empty corridors while the team moved toward their target. The substitution was seamless enough that monitoring guards noticed no unusual activity. Chris's camera manipulation was graduate-level computer crime, admits cybersecurity expert Dr. Sarah Kim. He had essentially created false reality for the security monitoring systems, allowing the team to operate in areas that were supposed to be under constant surveillance. The team reached the Golden Oasis Vault Complex at 3:31 a.m., where Eric's engineering expertise became crucial for breaching security barriers that had been designed to defeat professional criminals with decades of experience. Eric's vault entry was more sophisticated than techniques used by legendary safecrackers, observes former FBI safe and vault specialist agent Maria Santos. He used hydraulic systems and metallurgy knowledge to defeat security measures that had been designed to resist conventional breaking and entering methods. Eric's custom hydraulic jack system overcame the vault's secondary locking mechanisms in less than 8 minutes, creating access to the main storage area without triggering vibration sensors or audio monitoring systems designed to detect forced entry attempts. Eric had essentially solved the vault like an engineering problem, explains Dr. Park. He understood the physics of the locking mechanisms well enough to defeat them through precise application of force rather than crude breaking and entering techniques that would have triggered alarms. At 3:41 a.m., the team entered the Golden Oasis Vault and discovered that Maya's financial projections had been conservative. The facility contained over $42 million in bundled cash, representing the casino's peak summer accumulation. The sight of $42 million in cash was overwhelming even for people who had planned the heist for months, observes Dr. Rodriguez. But Daniel's team maintained their discipline and executed their extraction procedures exactly as rehearsed. The cash removal process required 12 minutes of coordinated effort, with team members loading pre-positioned duffel bags while maintaining communication discipline that prevented detection by the casino's audio monitoring systems. The team's coordination during the cash extraction was military-level precision, reflects Agent Chen. They had practiced these movements enough to execute them efficiently under extreme stress while maintaining the noise discipline necessary to avoid triggering acoustic sensors. By 3:58 a.m., Daniel Vega and his crew had loaded $42 million in cash and were exiting the Golden Oasis through the same service corridors they had used for entry, moving toward a stolen delivery van that would transport them away from the scene of the largest casino heist in Nevada history. The Golden Oasis heist was executed with a level of sophistication that redefined what law enforcement thought was possible for amateur criminals, concludes Agent Chen. Daniel's team had achieved something that professional crime organizations had attempted for decades without success. They had beaten the house at its own game. By 4:17 a.m. on July 18, 2002, Daniel Vega and his team were speeding through the Nevada desert in a stolen delivery van, carrying $42 million in cash and heading toward new lives that they had spent months planning with the same meticulous attention they had applied to the heist itself. The escape was as sophisticated as the theft, explains fugitive tracking specialist Dr. Patricia Chen. Each team member had developed individual disappearance strategies that leveraged their academic knowledge and personal circumstances to maximize their chances of permanent evasion. The team's first stop was an abandoned warehouse facility 20 miles outside Las Vegas, where they executed the final phase of their criminal enterprise, dividing the money and implementing escape plans that would scatter them across multiple continents. Daniel's approach to money division was remarkably fair and strategic, observes criminal behavior expert Dr. Michael Rodriguez. Each team member received approximately $8.4 million, with the understanding that their survival depended on never contacting each other again and never returning to their previous lives. Daniel Vega's disappearance was the most sophisticated, leveraging false identification documents he had obtained months earlier and travel arrangements that would take him through multiple countries before reaching his intended destination in South America. Daniel had essentially created a new identity with the same systematic approach he had applied to planning the heist, explains identity fraud specialist Dr. Jennifer Liu. His false documentation was sophisticated enough to pass international border security, and his travel route was designed to create false trails that would confuse law enforcement tracking efforts. Within 48 hours of the heist, Daniel was boarding a flight from Los Angeles to Mexico City using a passport in the name Carlos Mendoza, with plans to continue south through Central America before establishing a new life in a country without extradition treaties with the United States. Daniel's escape route was planned like a military evasion operation, admits former FBI International Fugitive Specialist Agent Robert Park. He understood how international law enforcement cooperation functioned and had chosen destinations that would make pursuit extremely difficult, even if his true identity was discovered. Maya Torres implemented a different but equally sophisticated disappearance strategy, using her finance expertise to immediately begin laundering her share of the stolen money through offshore accounts and shell companies she had established during the planning phase. Maya's money laundering was more advanced than techniques used by professional criminal organizations, explains financial crimes investigator Dr. Angela Torres. She understood international banking regulations well enough to move millions of dollars through legitimate financial institutions without triggering reporting requirements or suspicious activity investigations. Maya's initial movements took her to Panama, where she had arranged to purchase real estate and establish business interests that would provide legitimate explanations for her sudden wealth while creating legal residency in a country known for protecting financial privacy. Maya had essentially created a legal foundation for her criminal proceeds, observes Dr. Torres. Her money laundering strategy was sophisticated enough that even if investigators discovered her offshore accounts, proving the funds were derived from criminal activity would be extremely difficult. Chris Yoon chose to disappear into the international hacker underground, using skills and contacts he had developed during his computer science studies to establish a new identity within criminal networks that specialized in protecting high-value fugitives. Chris's disappearance was digital age invisible, explains cybersecurity expert Dr. Sarah Kim. He understood how to manipulate electronic records, create false digital identities, and operate within criminal networks that existed primarily in cyberspace rather than physical locations. Chris's electronic footprint suggested movement through Eastern Europe, where skilled computer programmers could find lucrative employment with criminal organizations while maintaining anonymity from Western law enforcement agencies. Chris had essentially joined a criminal economy that valued his technical skills more than his criminal history, observes Dr. Kim. The international hacker underground provided protection and anonymity that traditional law enforcement methods couldn't penetrate. Eric Salazar chose the most conventional disappearance strategy, using his engineering skills to establish a new life in Colorado under an assumed identity while living modestly enough to avoid attracting attention to his sudden change in circumstances. Eric's approach was to hide in plain sight, explains Dr. Rodriguez. He understood that the best way to avoid detection was to appear completely ordinary while gradually integrating his stolen money into legitimate investments and business activities. Eric's new identity as Marcus Rivera included employment records at a small engineering firm and a modest lifestyle that provided perfect camouflage for someone trying to avoid law enforcement attention while enjoying financial security derived from criminal proceeds. Eric had essentially created a normal American middle-class existence using stolen money, observes Dr. Liu. His transformation was so complete that even neighbors who knew him well had no indication that his comfortable lifestyle was funded by the largest casino heist in Nevada history. The team member whose escape proved least successful was Josh Miller, whose psychological makeup made him unsuitable for the disciplined lifestyle that permanent evasion required. Josh's personality was incompatible with successful fugitive existence, explains behavioral specialist Dr. Patricia Torres. He was accustomed to attention, social interaction, and public recognition from his athletic background. The isolation required for permanent evasion was psychologically devastating for someone with his temperament. Instead of leaving Las Vegas immediately, Josh remained in the city and began living an increasingly reckless lifestyle that would eventually lead to his downfall and provide law enforcement with their only breakthrough in the Golden Oasis investigation. The Golden Oasis Casino's discovery of the $42 million theft didn't occur until 7:23 a.m. on July 18th, when day shift vault manager Patricia Rodriguez arrived to begin routine cash counting procedures and found the facility's main storage area completely empty. When I opened the vault and saw nothing but empty shelves where $42 million should have been, my first reaction was complete disbelief, Rodriguez recalls. In 20 years of casino cash management, I had never seen anything approaching this magnitude of theft. The initial response was chaos as Golden Oasis executives tried to understand how their supposedly impenetrable security systems had been completely defeated without triggering any alarms or leaving obvious evidence of forced entry. The Golden Oasis had invested over $50 million in security systems designed by the best consultants in the industry, explains former casino security director Dr. Jennifer Liu. The idea that college students could defeat those systems seemed impossible until we began reviewing surveillance footage and realized how sophisticated their operation had been. The FBI was contacted immediately, but the investigation faced unprecedented challenges because the heist had been executed with a level of technical sophistication that exceeded most professional criminal operations. The Golden Oasis heist redefined what federal investigators thought was possible for amateur criminals, explains former FBI Special Agent Michael Chen, who led the investigation. We were dealing with people who had applied university-level expertise to criminal planning in ways that professional thieves never would have considered. The investigation's first breakthrough came from analyzing Chris Yoon's camera manipulation, which had been sophisticated enough to fool real-time monitoring, but left digital traces that FBI cybercrime specialists could identify through detailed forensic analysis. Chris's hacking was graduate-level computer crime, but he had made subtle technical errors that revealed the existence of his camera substitution system, explained cybersecurity investigator Dr. Robert Park. Once we understood that the security footage had been manipulated, we could begin reconstructing what had actually happened during the heist. The digital forensics revealed that the heist had been executed by a small team with specialized skills rather than a large criminal organization. But identifying the specific individuals proved extremely challenging because none of them fit traditional criminal profiles. We were looking for professional thieves, organized crime connections, or career criminals with extensive records, admits Agent Chen. The possibility that the heist had been executed by college students with no prior criminal experience wasn't initially considered because it seemed too improbable. The investigation remained stalled for nearly 2 years until Josh Miller's psychological inability to maintain the disciplined lifestyle required for permanent evasion led to behaviors that finally provided law enforcement with actionable leads. Josh's downfall was psychological rather than technical, explains behavioral analyst Dr. Angela Torres. He had successfully evaded detection for almost 2 years, but the isolation and secrecy required for permanent fugitive existence was destroying his mental health. Josh's increasingly reckless behavior in Las Vegas casinos, combined with his obvious possession of large amounts of cash that couldn't be explained by his legitimate employment history, eventually attracted the attention of casino security personnel who reported suspicious activity to federal investigators. Josh was flaunting wealth in ways that made him visible to the same security systems that we're still investigating the Golden Oasis theft, observes Dr. Torres. His need for social validation and public recognition ultimately overrode his survival instincts. The arrest of Josh Miller in March 2004 provided the FBI with their first concrete lead in the Golden Oasis investigation, but it also revealed how completely the other team members had disappeared. Josh's arrest gave us detailed knowledge about the heist planning and execution, but the other team members had vanished so completely that even Josh had no information about their current locations or identities, explains Agent Chen. Daniel had designed the operation so that capture of any individual member wouldn't compromise the others. Josh's cooperation with federal investigators led to the recovery of approximately $6 million, money he had hidden in various Las Vegas storage facilities, but provided no useful information about the location of the remaining $36 million or the 4 team members who had successfully disappeared. Josh's confession confirmed that we were dealing with one of the most sophisticated amateur criminal operations in American history, reflects Agent Chen. But it also demonstrated that the other team members had achieved something that most professional criminals never accomplish. They had committed the perfect crime and disappeared forever.